In life, as in all things, sometimes things happen that you don't like. And should probably say I'm the PC expert amateur. And this is a rant. So, in every industry, there are companies that make a move to secure more wealth for themselves at the expense of the customers. That may be by increasing prices, which may coincide with having to raise salaries up. And so they decide, well, we don't want to cut into our profit margins, so we raise the price to the customer. So the customer is paying for the increase in price to the employees, some of which are customers as well. That kind of thing, right? And so there have always been companies that make pre-assembled computers. In fact, that was the start of personal computing, was pre-assembled computers, and even commercial computers. It was pre-assembled. The rise of the customizable PC, which kind of, well, the so-called IBM or Windows PC, because before it was called a Windows PC, it was called an IBM PC because IBM started the trend in that direction. Before they came on the scene, it was Sinclair was first. They fizzled out, and then there was Tandy, TRS-80s or Trash 80s, and Radio Shack, I think, was the one that sold them, but Radio Shack is gone. They sold a lot of components. And then for hobbyists. And then, of course, there was the Commodore 64, the Commodore 128, and some others from Commodore. I think Commodore's gone. There was Apple IIs, Apple Lisa, Apple Mac. The Apple Lisa failed. The Apple III failed. The Apple IIs did very well until finally Apple abandoned them because they were kind of a evolutionary dead end. But with at least with the Apples, I don't recall there being any modularity or customizability in the Commodores. Not the one I had, anyways. Or maybe very, very minimal. But the Apples actually were designed so that you could improve them to one degree or another, the Apple IIs. And so they were partially pre-made because, it came with everything you needed to get started, and then you could just add things into it. So, it was pre-made plus customizability. But, nowadays we have full customizability, plus we have the fully pre-made ones, which generally also offer some ability to customize. Although when it comes to companies like Dell, HP, Lenovo, Acer, and so on, there's really a lot of limitations as far as customizability because they make custom motherboards and custom cases and everything. A lot of things, maybe not everything, but a lot of things that they can customize, they customize. So it is actually hard to take those proprietary parts out and put something better in, unless you modify the case or the motherboard or whatever. And that's a lot of hassle for a lot of people. So a lot of people who want to understand computers, like myself, actually take the time to learn about computers, to learn about the different components and stuff. And of late, some of the companies that have been big in supporting the customized PC scene have started to migrate in the direction of, well, let me just put it this way. They're migrating in the direction of capturing more of the consumer base. And I understand there's a lot of competition out there. There are dozens of companies out there that make computer components, that make whole computers, that make customizable computers. Some of them are very interesting, like Frameworks makes customizable and upgradable laptops, which is something that is very, very rare. And I think there's been one or two other companies that did or do that. And when I say customizable and upgradable, I mean like literally it's a modular laptop and you can take a part out that's, no longer good enough, and so you can upgrade the CPU, you can upgrade the GPU, you can upgrade the memory, you can upgrade what kind of ports you have in there, and it's if I wanted a new laptop, I would probably go that route. But anyways, I digress. So a lot of these companies that generally tend to charge more money for their products, like Lian Li, NZXT, Corsair, and now Phanteks, are now moving in the direction of capturing a larger consumer base by producing things that have proprietary connectors and proprietary electronics. And I'm not in favor of that. I mean, I will admit, quality-wise, I can say that Corsair, for the product quality, is generally very good. Documentation is generally bad. Support, if it's customer service, they can give you customer service level support, but not technical support. Generally speaking, it's going to be very limited. Their technical support is much better than that. I haven't worked with Lian Li or NZXT or Phanteks as far as any of that. Well, I did email Lian Li a week or two ago, and they didn't respond because I was trying to get some parts for some incomplete fans that I bought. I don't know why they didn't respond, but anyways, so I'm really vexed because when I got the Lian Li fans, and I'll show you an example. They have proprietary connectors. They call them SM connectors. And those are for the ARGB. So, you have, they also have a proprietary connector that connects the cables itself to the fan. So it's a little bit different. And this is the old version that I'm going to show you. The new version has I can show that to you also if I want. I'll decide if I want to or not. But basically it has these pins that stick out, and these pins can be problematic because they can get damaged, they can be bent, they can get stuck in, and then it doesn't function correctly. And here's the connector, and this is version 1. So you just take this and you slide it on there and into the, see, just like that. So it's pretty easy to use. And on the other end you have 2 connectors. Now again, this is version 1, so you have the standard ARGB connector and the standard PWM connector, which is great. That's great. There was some feedback from some of the big tech channels about this connector. Number one, this connector is kind of thick, so this can actually create a barrier, take up space unnecessarily in the case, where it might not be, it might make it impossible, I guess I should say, to install it there because of other components that need that space. But at the very least, it's standardized connectors. And that is important because a lot of people who want to, get better fans don't want to have to buy specialized equipment to use those better fans. Well, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately, because Lian Li improved this design in a way so that it doesn't take up a lot of space, so it doesn't clash with nearby components that might prevent it from being installed. However, on top of that, they also added a proprietary ARGB connector. Let me show you that. So this is the second version where they still have the pins, and there's the connector on the other side because you can actually seat these up against each other, but they move the positioning of the pins. So you can't actually interconnect version 1 like this and version 2, or sorry, not that, the one I showed you before, because the positioning is different. So for version 1, the pins and stuff are here, and the fingers are there. But on version 2, we can see they're offset up like 1.5 inches from the top there. We'll say the top, yeah, just because I don't know which side's the top. It doesn't really even matter. So what they did is they have the pins, but they also have inside there, you can barely see, there's a second set of pins right inside. And I'm not really cognizant of why they chose to have a double set of pins, but they also have a completely different connector. Now, the nice thing about this connector is when you figure out how to plug it in, well, it's a little bit weird. And here's why. Because you're not actually using both set of pins. So, see, this confuses me. Why have 2 sets of pins if you're not going to use them? Because if you look here, you can see this is made for 1 set of pins, and the other set of pins that stick out, the golden ones, actually are just covered over. So I'm not really sure what that's all about, but you can just slide this onto the new embedded pins, hidden pins, and now instead of taking up like 1 inch of space this way and 1/8 of an inch this way, there's very, very little interference because it's now just a flat cable, and it is a reinforced cable. So this is actually a very good quality cable, I have to admit. And although it does come with their proprietary SM connector, they include an adapter. So you can go from the SM connector to standard ARGB. So at least with this, they're recognizing that customers may want to use the ARGB header on their motherboard instead of having to buy a Lian Li hub. And the header for the PWM, the power, is still standard. So at least with Lian Li in this regard, they have made it possible to take a proprietary problem, and they've provided a solution for us consumers, so that maybe we've got some good reason for adding this fan, and I can think of different excuses as to why, like I've got 4 different kinds of 4 or 5 different kinds of fans in my case. Why? Because I can. But some people want like all the same, and that's your aesthetic choice. Now, a variant, kind of a cross between the 2 that I've shown you, is this one, which is so I showed you first the SL Infinity 120, I believe it was, and then I showed you the SL 120 version 2. Both of those are Unifans, and this is also a Unifan, but this is the ST120 RGB. And as you can see, there's no connector for the cables. The cables are wired all the way to the hub. And it comes with the proprietary connector, and it comes with the 4-pin standard PWM connector. Now, this is different from the other one I showed you. The other one was a 3-pin connector that converts to standard ARGB with the adapter. This one, this one didn't. The part was missing, so I don't know if this actually is supposed to come with an adapter or not. But this is 4-pin, so it suggests that it's RGB, not ARGB. However, I don't know. I didn't bother to look it up. The point is that until I can confirm whether this is RGB or ARGB, and it does say on the box that it's RGB, which in theory now means that this connector can plug into the RGB header on your motherboard. However, in looking at it, I see that although it says it's a 4-pin, it is actually, or not, doesn't say that it's a 4-pin. Although you can see 4 holes, one of those holes, the second from this side, is empty. So this is actually 3 pins. So this is ARGB. But the wings on the side here are not something that are used on a standard ARGB connector. So is this going to be like this NZXT one? Because the NZXT one, they have wired this in a different way, and you actually have to plug this into an NZXT hub, which connects to the power by SATA cable, and it connects to the computer by USB. And according to NZXT, you cannot swap this socket out for a standard ARGB socket. Why? Because apparently it'll damage the LEDs in the fan if you try to do that. So what this says is that you can only use this with an NZXT hub if you want the lighting. If you don't care about the lighting, no big deal. You don't have to plug it in because you can still use the PWM connector. But if you want the lights to work, you must have the NZXT DRGB hub or RGB hub. It's the same thing. I only found one hub on their website, and it's the RGB hub. So if you have fans from a different company that have ARGB or RGB, you cannot connect them to the hub from NZXT because the power conditions are different. And you cannot connect this to the hub, say, from Lian Li or from Corsair. So there's no compatibility, and you're permanently, well, not permanently, you're stuck as long as you choose to be stuck with a product that cannot be used with products from other companies. And it looks like maybe Lian Li in this particular fan has done exactly the same thing. Now, that's bad news, because that means if you decide, oh, I really love the way these fans, look. I love the fact that these fans can be connected together, and so there's less cabling. Not this particular model, but the Unifans that are the other that have the pins that I showed you. Then, people are going to be like, well, I don't mind that I have to have the fan hub from them because look at this. It's very beautiful or whatever, It's very clean. Some people really hate seeing any cables whatsoever. They want the cables to just kind of disappear into the background. And I understand. I don't really, personally, it doesn't bother me. But some people, there are a lot of people that feel that way. There are a lot of people that absolutely must have LEDs, even though LEDs add nothing performance-wise to a computer. But if you decide that you want to add more fans, well, then you have to buy, and the fans are from a different company. Then you have to buy another hub, and hopefully the other company you buy from doesn't use proprietary connectors, doesn't use proprietary pinouts, so that you can just buy whatever hub you want. So there is some good news in this. Not all the companies have moved to it. This annoying proprietary system. Other than the 4 that I've mentioned, I don't know how many others are doing this. I know that Asiahorse, with some of their fans, will use the 6-pin JST connectors. And for those, you have to have a 6-pin hub. Presumably, they are not... Well, I can't say. I can't say if they're using proprietary electrical needs and wiring like NZXT and Lian Li and stuff. Or if they are using... if it's still kind of standard and you can separate them and make regular PWM and ARGB connectors work. But there are companies out there that are taking the I guess licensing, or in some cases maybe stealing, the technology that Lian Li is employing, like having the cableless connectors, and some of the other features. And they're selling them and the fans tend to be less expensive, and you may actually be able to use them interchangeably with other brands. So there are possibly options out there, and are possibly going to be options out there for those of us who, and I'm not going to buy any more NZXT, and I'm not going to buy any more Lian Li. For people who want to have flexibility in their builds, who want to have the ability to say, you know what, I don't want these fans anymore, or I want to mix and match, or whatever, without having a cajillion different hubs and stuff like that. So, I mean, my computer, I don't sit here and stare at my computer. In fact, the lighting that I use in my computer is just to let me know when it gets hot. But this is very, very, very annoying to me personally, and I know there are other people who feel the same way. I'm not going to engage in and support companies that try to capture customers this way. To me, it just is not acceptable, and it's bad enough that we have car manufacturers who are trying to squeeze out all the regular mechanics and force everybody to go to dealerships to get their cars repaired. And for those of you who've never been to a dealership, they're way more expensive than going to a regular mechanic. There are some benefits, but the point is there was a law recently passed to make sure that consumers have the right to be able to fix their own stuff. However, because certain industries have too much money and power, they were exempted from this. So the automotive industry and phone industry, I believe, and certain other industries do not have to build their products to allow customers to be able to repair them themselves, which to me is unacceptable. And the politicians should be taken out and shot. Well, maybe not shot, but flogged maybe. Anyways, so I hope you will join me in boycotting all these companies that are trying to take control of our wallets and take control of our computers by imposing arbitrary proprietary connectors and such. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.